Okay, so we have DataDefender here, and the idea behind this tool is that it looks at where the attackers are generally trying to get to, and that is the data. The data within your cloud. So much of your data has been migrated over to the cloud and now sits in the cloud. So you need to make sure you're properly securing it right where it sits, and that is the ultimate target of the attacker. So you need to be properly securing that data right where it sits. So this tool actually gives you all the different capabilities you need to protect that data, right? So, and it gives you pretty much all the capabilities you need, and none of the ones you don't need, right? So it's designed for that middle market where it's pulling all the features, and whether that's data classification, whether that's attack monitoring, whether that's security assessments, it pulls it all into one place. Where you can do this very efficiently and very effectively, cost effectively, and do it with a smaller staff, right? We know the vast majority of people don't have enough people on the security staff. So the idea is to provide a tool that gives you a very effective and quick way to provide the security without having to take weeks to roll out. Instead, it should take hours to roll out. And it's designed so that it creates as little work. It actually takes work away from you. So you should be able to have less to do by using this tool. So you have data insights to start with. And this just, as you're new to the tool and you're trying to figure it out, it walks you through everything from how do I find my data? What should I be looking at? What are the resources that are open to public? What are attackers doing? What are misconfigurations? So this is just really for the people that are new to the tool and how do they get started. But we, of course, start with this idea of how do I actually go figure out what your resources are, collect it all, because that's the first step. But very quickly, we move into the idea of one of the most common attacks that occur, and the one that really gets people so much, is somebody within your organization accidentally creating a public access to a resource. Right now, this is a tricky task to accomplish, because at the end of the day, you want certain data to be public, and some of it you don't want to be public. So you have to, the safest ship is the one that doesn't leave the harbor. However, ships are meant to travel, and it's the same with your data. The safest data is one that's perfectly and is no access allowed to it. However, that's not the point. You can't operate your business like that. So, but to make sure that you're not inadvertently exposing publicly resources that you didn't mean to, we have a tool that actually manages for you. And it's a very complex task, because at the end of the day, you can have a lot of resources. You can have thousands of S3 buckets, tens of thousands, and to know which ones are supposed to be accessible and which ones should be internal is a hard task. So we give you a screen which allows you to quickly review the data, which allows you to check on where your encryption is. We use our data classification that we're going to go into next, and we cross-reference this. So if you have a new bucket that shows up as public, you can quickly assess the classification and what's in that. You can assess what security holes exist around it. You can actually see what attacks perhaps are happening on it. And so we give you kind of that data is cross-referenced between the different capabilities in a way that actually makes your job much easier. And the fact is, once you've kind of established this is the data that should be public, this is the data that should not be public, then we, on an ongoing basis, are reviewing your environment and making sure when new things pop up, you are able to review that and very quickly and efficiently determine, is that marketing material that should be public, or is that internal information that should not be public? And so you can get it shut down very quickly. But we provide this whole management tool around how do I provide access. And where it gets tricky is not just an S3 bucket. It's not just a Google Drive. It's not just an EBS snapshot. There's RDS snapshots. There's blobs in Azure. So the amount of data in your storage that you would have to manage without a tool is out of control. So you absolutely need a tool to prevent data from accidentally leaking. And you may even have, for instance, an S3 bucket that today has no sensitive data in it, and you make it public. And for some reason, somebody dumps sensitive data into it or private data into it. we will actually be reviewing that data and tell you, okay, we found a new classification profile in there. We found sensitive data. We found PII. We found credit card information. And we'll resurface that to you to say, okay, here is an S3 bucket that you need to go review again, approve if it's valid, or get it locked down if it's not. So that is the idea. Data classification. So we do that as well. As we are classifying your data, we're going through all these buckets, and we're doing it really at a very rich and deep level. Because we've done antivirus for so long, we have very good access to your data. We're able to go ahead and review that data and see what's in it. And we can actually look inside the files and review very deep to make sure that we're really doing classification well. So there's a lot of classification there. But this classification, we're not doing classification for the sake of classification. We're doing classification to feed into all the other things. When a suspected attack occurs, you need to cross-reference it with data classification so you know what's actually happening. You know, if you need if you're wanting to expose a public resource, you need to know what the sensitive data is in there, what's in there, so you can properly react to it. So that data classification is designed to feed in and cross-reference all the other data, all the other sources and the features. But very rich ability to give you these data classification. Suspected attacks. When somebody is doing something within your account, you need to know what it is, right? Now, what you don't want is constant alarms that are going to waste your time and are going to basically filter out the real attacks. So we have kind of very basic events that are occurring. These attacks, when they occur, we are monitoring those. Everything from, let's say, somebody's deleting or disabling a cloud trail. You need to know about that, but it might not be an attack. But we're putting all that data together versus there's things like privilege escalations. People are going to try privilege escalations, and you need to be monitoring for that. So we have all these raw single event attacks. But then what's more important is we do what we call multi-stage attacks. So we actually will go into there and we'll watch, because attacks, how do they actually happen? They're usually a single step. Maybe somebody gains some foothold into your environment and then begins things like reconnaissance. They begin things like privilege escalation. They begin to do things like lateral movement, defense evasion analysis. So we actually have this rich AI backed source of how we actually can watch attacks progress. And that's very important, because you can't jump up every time somebody disables a cloud trail, right? You should react to those, but more important is you need to know if you're watching an attack chain and you see somebody using an account that's very unusual. You see them trying to escalate their privilege. You see them then disabling a cloud trail. This is the point the bells and whistles should be going off, and you should make sure that you're reacting to that very quickly before some kind of ransomware attack occurs, right? So these multi-stage detection capabilities are really change the game. They give the ability to watch an attacker and to see, okay, he's in step 2 of 5. This is what he's doing. I can get the full view of what he's doing, and then I can decide, okay, that's not an attack, or that's a red team that's working in your environment, or whatever it is. But you can actually get visibility into that. And then there's the security holes, the misconfiguration. So, I want to actually go through and try to lock down all the public access that's inappropriate, or did I not set my proper access controls or cloud trail, or I didn't, I opened a security group too much. So we just give you a set of 100 different vulnerabilities or misconfigurations that you can review and go in there and set up. The other thing we do is this idea of exposure discovery. How do attacks actually occur? They actually occur by people inadvertently exposing, for instance, an access key that they shouldn't, or they may expose something on a public website that becomes an open door. It becomes a crack in the door that somebody can use, right? And so again, don't think about attacks as one step and they own an account or they perform ransomware. It's very much a staged attacks. It's very much gradual. They need a foot in the door, and then from that foothold. They use it to escalate their privileges, lateral movement. So this idea of you need to be monitoring for your exposures, right? Did you accidentally put something on your website that exposed an open S3 bucket, or did you accidentally put something inside? Did you accidentally make an EBS snapshot public, or did one of your developers, horrifically publish an EC2 access key within a file that they pushed out to GitHub or GitLabs or one of the other 25 sources that people push to? And this is how attacks actually occur, is that it might not even be a privileged attack. It might not even be a privileged account that leaks, but you need to know about that. You need to be monitoring it very diligently. You need to know what buckets are ending up out there in public sources. You need to be monitoring what a public resource is. Did somebody take an RDS backup, put it out there public, and not realize that that has sensitive data in it? And oftentimes we think that, well, nobody's going to actually notice that account. Nobody's going to notice that public resource. Well, they do notice it, and that's how these type of attacks occur. So we have a whole set of features under exposure discovery that are not just looking at what's within your account, but what's external to your account and what might have somebody done within your organization to reveal something that becomes the beginning of an attack. So lots of features, everything from forensic analysis, but it really is all the capabilities you need within a mid-market company that needs to secure data, that needs to prevent their cloud data from ending up ransomed or even stolen and used inappropriately. So we give you those capabilities in one tool. Again, I like to say the idea is all the features you need and none of the ones you don't need, and very, very simplified, so you can roll this out and be working effectively with minimal effort and in a small team. So come check out DataDefender.